Welcome to today's talk. Today we're going to be talking about Coburg Lake and the white ibis. My name is Alex English. I'm the open space planner at Moreland City Council. Now, just if this is all working okay. Hope that's coming up for you. I don't know if you missed that first bit, but we're talking about the white ibis at Coburg Lake. And first, before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm here on the land of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung, the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of this land. And I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and future. And I think it's a very suitable topic given the waterways are such significant cultural heritage to the Wurundjeri that we need to respect and care for it. And today's a bit of a conversation around how we'll do that. So I'm hoping that I could share a screen, and it looks like the option that I had there has just disappeared. So I'll have to just talk you through it, and hopefully we'll get some interesting discussions here. So I suppose before I start with the talk about the white ibis, I think it's important that we understand the sort of the changes that have happened in the urban environment. And we've sort of often talk about the city as quite a hostile place for most of our native flora and fauna. But it's interesting, if we walk down into the CBD, we'll find peregrine falcons nesting in skyscrapers. We'll find the movement of our parks, the ground hovering with activity of brush-tailed possums in our parks. If we look up in the sky at dusk, we'll find the endangered grey-headed flying fox, almost a mass of them heading across our skies in the urban city. If you walk down streets like Flemington Road in Parkville or North Melbourne, at the sort of dusk as well, you have the deafening calls of the Queensland sort of brush box full of rainbow lorikeets. And then if you head down to St Kilda Jetty, you'll discover a whole colony of little penguins, and they've been out all day and they come back in the evenings and they've been feeding in the bay. So what about the story of the white ibis, and how different is that? So the white ibis at Coburg Lake. Probably first I'd like to say that Coburg Lake is a little park that's situated on the Merri Creek in Coburg on Wurundjeri land. And it's one of Moreland's premier parks. The park's beginnings are actually connected to the prison, and you can probably see that with some of the scary but also impressive amounts of bluestone that have been all quarried and included in the park, including the weir wall. The reserve, the lake, and all its associated vegetation have quite a bit of historical significance, a lot of it dating back to about the 1850s. In fact, Coburg Lake used to be a popular swimming hole, which, before white ibis were there, the humans were in there swimming around. It's got vast grass areas, shaded seating, and there's 3 playgrounds that you can find in the park as well. Very popular for recreation, picnics, and events and festivals. And in the middle of it is the Coburg Lake, which is created by this weir wall. And in the middle of that lake is a little island. And we're going to be talking about many of the inhabitants of that little island. But the Coburg Lake is actually home to over 80 different other bird species beyond just the white ibis. It's a shame, I wanted to show you some of the visuals, but we'll have to skip through to that for next time. Or I can share them online. So before we talk about our Coburg Lake bin chickens or white ibis, what are they? Well, often if we look up in the sky, especially if we're sort of in northern Coburg or Fawkner along waterways, we'll see this beautiful V-shaped formation of birds, very graceful gliders, and the V shape is quite distinctive for the white ibis. They're generally around 70 centimetres high, and they weigh about 1.5 to 2.5 kilos, which relatively is pretty heavy for most birds. Their plumage is completely white, with a little bit of black and white in their tails. The distinctive element of the white ibis is that they're completely featherless on their head, and they have this long curved bill. And then they have this beautiful plume of feathers at the base of their neck. Males are slightly larger and they have longer bills compared to females. The juveniles, they have black feathers around their neck. So where do we find the white ibis? Well, they're generally found across the whole of the east and north of Australia. Historically, they were mainly located in regional areas, and they would predominantly be found in sort of floodplains, wetlands, and along the water's edge of rivers. However, since the sort of 1950s, with urbanisation and abundance of food, as well as reliable water with irrigated sporting ovals, and at the same time, the decline of water with a lot more sort of regulated water supplies in regional areas, their habitat has actually declined in rural and regional areas. And yet they have actually spread more broadly. So we're now finding them in WA and they're even appearing in Tasmania, but their populations in urban centres has grown. And so on the one hand, their traditional areas of distribution have declined, urban areas have increased. So what do they eat? And why are there so many white ibis? Well, generally, most people think they probably just eat rubbish, and that's why they're called the bin